To the extent that we need to understand it for this purpose, our unconscious self is designed to generate what is best for us. Meaning, it's designed to keep us alive, to keep us safe and alive. So all the functions that need to happen for us to be alive and safe, the unconscious self runs, and I'm talking about the functions that our conscious self does not touch. So we're conscious when we're hungry, we're conscious, we eat. So there's a lot of functions that the conscious self, but everything beyond that runs by our unconscious self. Now, what happens when our needs or our true desires come into conflict with the functioning of the unconscious self? For example, we want to improve our life and we need to face some scary truths and we're afraid of it, and fear is identified as something that does not keep us safe. It's a signal for the unconscious self. That means we're not safe. Then the unconscious self needs to decide. There's a conflict between what we want, what our true desire is, and the function and the programming of the unconscious self. Okay? Now, this creates a fork in the road. Since the designated function of the unconscious self is to keep us alive and well, and fear is an indicator that we might not be well, or down the road maybe not be alive, because that's the same signal, the unconscious self needs to operate, which means that it will block that process. It will block everything on that path. And if that means admitting some truths that are uncomfortable, that's what it's going to do, because that's the programming of the unconscious self. All right? Now, we realize that we have two functions. The conscious self is everything that we are aware of as a self. The parts of us that we are fully aware, that's the conscious self. And it's a fluid definition. It's individual and different people are aware of different aspects of themselves, but that's it. That's simple. The unconscious self goes beyond that. So the conscious self is really a subset of the unconscious self. And in some situations, they come into conflict because I know that I want to improve myself. I know I want to heal, because now, after I've done the last few installments, I know that some pain that I still holds me back from my perfected life. And I want to heal that, and I want to face it. The fear comes up, and now the unconscious self kicks in, because the unconscious self, as I said, it's an automated program. It kicks in and it blocks me from doing it. So the question is, how can I outsmart a much smarter opponent? Because the unconscious self is the bigger me. The conscious self is only a subset, which means that the unconscious self is fully aware of any thought, any plan, any desire, anything that happens inside the conscious self. So any plan that I can conceive, that I can come up with, any thought that comes up in my mind, the unconscious self not only is fully aware of it, it also knows about it before it comes to the conscious self. So now we defined a pretty deep conundrum. How do we outsmart a much more powerful and all-knowing opponent? That's what we're dealing with. We have one trick up our sleeve, and this tool is called free will. Free will is our secret power, because free will resides only, exclusively in the conscious self. And that is the only advantage we have when we're trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the unconscious, our own unconscious self, which will do anything to keep us safe, including changing our hearing, changing our mindset, activating bodily function, etc., etc. I can't tell you how many times in my interactions with people in one-on-one, we get to a very hard truth, a very painful truth, and all of a sudden they go, can you hold that thought for a second? I really have to go to the bathroom. And it happens so consistently that I'm not even surprised. Or all of a sudden, they just tune out. or they fall asleep, or all kinds of other behaviors. All of a sudden, something distracts them, or they start getting itchy. There's all kinds. This is an example of the unconscious self activating bodily functions to distract the mind so they won't perceive. In some cases, people literally don't hear the words. They tune them out. So it's a very powerful opponent. The only tool we have to outmaneuver that opponent is free will. Because free will, real free will, resides only in the conscious self. The unconscious self is a fully automated program. Okay? Now, as such, you can understand that this is the true difference between the human awareness, the human consciousness, and every other type of consciousness. And there are many types, as I demonstrated earlier. Okay? Now, true freedom really is liberation from our own automatic program. That is the matrix. And the matrix is not uniform. The matrix is individual. It's different for each and every one of us. And as long as we're subject to our automatic program, we don't really have free choice. Only an illusion of. And everything about us, our choices, our needs, our desires, our preferences, everything is an outcome of the accumulated previous events and our reaction to them.